Well, and something else is that I'm just glad that our security footage here has been working as well as it has been.
Yes.
So that is certainly really good, but wait a second. Wait.
What's the matter?
Wait, do you see that?
It's the light going on.
It's the one. He's right there. Yeah.
That one.
He's got a gun. He's got a gun. Wait. There he is. I guess the shots fired. All right. Did you get hit with anything? I think I'm good.
I guess I came pretty close though.
Yeah.
Too close. I guess we need a better security system.
Yeah, we want to. Looks like we might be gone right now. We need to go.
Yeah.
That's my shirt.
Oh, that's good.
Yes, I need to report a shooting. Yes. 823 North Mayberry. Yes, as quickly as possible, please. Yes, thank you, goodbye.
Where is that one at?
world happened here? Gosh. pulse. My co-host is dead. There's nothing left of him. It appears he's bled out. Fellas, in my yard. All this happened. Oh, I don't know what's gonna happen. Our co-host. Hold on. Hey, that looks like Jake's car. What in the world? That can't be. What? Jake! Hey! Hey, pal, how you doing?
There's my car right there.
Well,
There's another car, because it looks just like mine right there.
I thought that... So you're Jake?
I know I'm a little bit later. I know I said I would be here like an hour and a half ago, but had a flat tire and my phone was dead, and so yeah, it was just it took a lot longer to get here than I thought. So
But you were just...
are we ready to film the season 3 finale?
What? You were just
That's
here.
why I was here. I know I'm probably a little bit too late by now, but
Then who was that? Thought you were just here.
you thought I was just here? No.
Well, yeah, that was your car. And...
Yeah, I know it looks just like it. But
Wait a second. Who was I recording with then?
What do you mean? Who are you recording with?
Well, you drove a car just like yours. They looked just like you.
Well, oh my gosh.
Oh no, you don't think it's...
Yeah, the one is dead right there.
Oh my gosh. You're kidding.
You know what happened to him? The guy who's been coming after us for months.
Yeah.
He's now dead in your front yard. Do you know what happened? Do you know what happened at all here?
Well, you know, things were kind of crazy, and it was all a blur, really. I will say it did not go as planned.
What do you mean by didn't go as planned?
Well, there was this whole altercation with this fella named Bullriot. That was the one.
Yeah, he's right there, but
He's over there?
yeah, he's dead. But what happened?
He's dead now?
Yeah, right there. I can tell he's not breathing. What happened to him?
Gosh. Well, I don't know.
So you said that you were recording with me, and
Well, I thought so.
guess we've got to step around the one's body. Did you call the
Yes.
police?
Yeah, they should be on their way. Hopefully they get here soon.
Yeah. Hopefully they do. So the one's dead, and it looks like the one was shot. The way there was blood everywhere and all over his clothes,
Yeah.
and
Looked like a bullet wound?
yeah, that's what it looked like to me. But
Well, now that you mention it, I did hear something that sounded like gunshots.
why is there a guy that looks like me that also looks like he's seen that guy in years. Mark Farm, the guy who's been trying to impersonate me for years and come after me. That's him right there.
It would appear.
Is he also dead? He doesn't look like he's moving.
I believe so. We were unable to find a pulse.
Wait,
Sorry,
so you know about this? What happened? So you said you thought I was here because you thought he was me.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're all right.
And the altercation between Mark Farm and the one is how he got there.
Yes.
And then somehow he got shot over there. So who shot him?
Well, I don't know. I woke up a little bit ago with the pain. I passed out. Everything before that's been a real blur.
Oh, here's the police. They're now arriving. Better go talk to them.
Okay.